Hi guys, this is Hero. How's everyone doing today? आज पता केम छो? आज सब कैसे हो? So today I'm going over the topic of false sense of accomplishment, okay, and the possible dangers associated with this. Now, the reason why this topic is so important is because we only have a certain level of awareness and energy inside of us. So you want to utilize that awareness and energy through the most optimal, like, karmic routes, right? You don't want to waste it on garbage. Now, the point of this video is not necessarily to say what's right and what's wrong. It's mostly just to get your own awareness and train of thought going to determine, hey, am I utilizing unnecessary awareness and energy on things like that are giving me a false sense of accomplishment, okay, and that is building my false ego and false pride. So what do I mean? I'm just gonna give some typical basic examples first, and then I'll go into some details. So like a huge false sense of accomplishment, I would say, is watching TV, right? Because it makes you feel like you did something or you were involved in something when you really weren't, right? Checking social media is also like that. It makes you feel like you did something when you actually didn't do anything, right? And there's a lot of superficial things that give you a false sense of accomplishment, but there's a lot of other deeper things that a lot of people don't think about that also give you a false sense of accomplishment. And without getting too much off the right track, like for example, one of those things that I noticed was mask wearing, okay? There's a huge false sense of accomplishment, and a lot of people got attached to doing that, okay? Which I'll just leave it at that. Or another thing could be, taking your experimental shot and then showing your certificate that you got it, right? That could also possibly be another false sense of accomplishment. Now, I don't want to make this video too political, I guess you can say, but just the point here is to just be aware. Hey, is there some false sense of accomplishment in my head with doing these things? And am I getting too attached to it and too prideful about these kinds of things? Okay, that's the whole thing here. Now, moving forward. So I gave the example about TV and social media, right? Because you're basically emotionally, energetically getting involved in this thing, right? You're getting involved in this environment that the show or the social media platform is trying to create, and you feel like you're a part of that when really you're not. Even if you do feel like you're a part of that by like posting and things like that, it's not, it's still a false sense of accomplishment, right? Because it's all like fake. It's like this fake virtual thing. Now, like I said, it runs a lot deeper than just the surface, right? So a classic example of false accomplishment is video games, right? Because you're just doing something with your thumbs and it's like in this fake space, right? Now, point I want to make is not whether video games are good or bad, right? There's nothing wrong with playing a game. There's nothing wrong with watching a movie once in a while, whatever. But the point here is, do you have an overly false sense of accomplishment with these things? And to possibly build up your awareness and try to see for yourself if you should cut that back for your own spiritual growth. Okay, it's not saying are some things good and some things bad. That's not the point here. Moving forward, another thing could be like caking your face up with makeup too often, right? There's nothing wrong with wearing makeup and looking good, okay, or doing your hair or whatever, right? I like getting my haircuts too. But how frequently are you doing it? How attached are you getting to this thing? That's what you want to know, okay? Now, moving forward. So, false sense of accomplishments. Why? Now, there might be some people that, do some of these things that I've just said, and they disagree, or they don't think that it's that big of a deal, right? And to be honest, it's not. Because like I said, it's not about what you do. It's about the mental state of mind when you do it, right? It's about how attached to you, how much false sense of accomplishment, how much false pride is this thing giving you. Now, it's a little bit of a slippery slope because it's kind of up to your own awareness to see how much consciously or subconsciously this thing is playing a weight in your mind as far as false sense of accomplishment. But point of this video is just to get the ball rolling, okay? Another big thing, false sense of accomplishment, is masturbation, okay? Masturbation is like watching adult material especially, but mostly the masturbation, it's huge, right? It makes you feel like you did something. And that's the worst because, see, like, sex is a big energetic thing, right? Like, there's an emotional, mental, physical exchange of energies. Now, you're expending all that, but and you feel like you did something when actually nothing actually happened. Now, you might be wondering, oh, well, what's wrong with that, right? Like, it's okay as a stress reliever once in a while. And I'm not saying directly in this video, although I do have some other opinions that I might touch on in other videos, but I'm not saying directly in this video that it's not okay to masturbate once in a while. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that it's a huge expenditure of your energy, okay? And that is giving you a false sense of accomplishment, like you did something. And then when that happens, you're not going to be able to do some of the other things in your day-to-day life that you probably should be doing from an energetic or karmic standpoint, right? Because we know some of the things that we should be doing, like a lot of karmic things related to discipline or like fulfilling external karmas or things like that. Some of those have a strong free will and other components involved in it that require our energy, right? Now, if we're wasting it on some of these things, right, either through video games or just thinking about because playing video games, like, it can be a little intense, right? Like, you're involved in this thing for like hours and hours, and you're shooting guns and you're using weapons and things like that. Or, like I said, this masturbation thing, right? There's a huge expenditure of energy and a huge release and things like that. That level of energy could have gone into something else. This is why brahmacharya is promoted in most spiritual sects and groups, right? Because that heightened, that saving storage of energy. Now, I'm not saying you have to be perfect, right? Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But there are philosophies that recommend the storing of this energy for this purpose, right? Because so that you can actually you have a higher chance of accomplishing real things. Now, these real things don't necessarily have to be superficially validated, right? Like, for example, I consider making these YouTube videos somewhat fulfilling for me personally, right? However, most of the people I know in real life would not consider this that much of an accomplishment, right? So this is where you kind of have to see for yourself, right? Like, I'm not going to get anything out of these YouTube videos, right? It's just something I'm doing just for me. Like, I'm not going to get like an award or like, when I die, it's not going to be like, oh yeah, remember this guy. It's not going to be like that. This is just for like, just my way of giving energy and giving karma to the world, right? But like, so some people could view it as like, just like a waste. And then some people could view it as just like a very good thing, right? So that's why you have to see for some of these examples how it is for you. Okay, for example, the makeup thing. Yeah, caking your face up with makeup too much is probably not good. But if you have low confidence and you feel like this is just a little temporary building block to get your confidence up so you can do other things in the long term, and you can still also detach from the makeup objectively, you know that you have to detach from the makeup later, that's fine, right? Same thing with alcohol, binge drinking and things like that. This is a false sense of accomplishment. This is overall probably not good. But if you're somebody who has very, very low confidence and you're using this alcohol as a temporary stepping stool just to get out of your comfort zone and shell for a little bit, just temporarily, and still acknowledge that it's something that you need to detach from in the after you use it as a stepping stone, but in the long run, this is providing you some benefits. You have to see for yourself. This is why, a lot of people have a bad taste about religion, right? It's too many rules. Now, it's not that necessarily you have to follow the rules, okay? You probably should be following the rules, but that's not the point. Point is, you just have to understand why the rules are what they are. And then you can use your spirituality to modify it accordingly, but objectively. Okay, that's the key here. Now, if you notice a lot of my videos, they're all about making you more spiritually objective in what you should or should not do. Okay, it's not, I'll leave it at that. So there's a lot of free will and like own creativity, I guess you can say, involved, but it only works if you're being honest with yourself and you're aware about your thoughts and emotions and things like that. Okay, now, to close out this video with the false sense of accomplishment. So I think you guys got the point, right? It runs deep in a lot of the things that we do. And I kind of give a huge spectrum, and there's infinite variable amount of things that you are doing that possibly could or could not be giving you a false sense of accomplishment. Anything you do could be giving you a false sense of accomplishment. And any stereotypical false sense of accomplishment thing that you do could actually be not a false sense of accomplishment. Like, let me give you an example, like video games. I give the example of how it probably is a false sense of accomplishment. But for some people, it could not. Let's just say you're very introverted, like you don't know how to socialize properly and things like that. You could use the video games as a temporary tool just to socialize, make friends, and kind of get out of your comfort zone. And so that in the long run, you have some social skills developed, right? But as long as you recognize that, hey, this video game is just a short-term thing. It's not something that I'm going to be dependent on long-term. And when I'm 40 and 50, I'm just going to be glued to the game and keep playing, right? So you got to see, okay? But that's what I'm going to say for this video, okay? Just monitor this. And if you have any questions or comments, as usual, you can feel free to let me know. And until next time, I'll talk to everyone later. Thank you all very, very much for watching.